Official betting app. BetU and Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
How would you guys like to try smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and pickle grilled on a French bread? That is called the Midnight, and you can find that at the Coker Market, located at the four-way intersection in Coker, Alabama, on County Road 140. They are open Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. Go by the Coker Market for community goods and great barbecue, great food, local products, and great sandwiches. You are locked in on the Stingray Show, and coming up immediately following us on this edition, the Mississippi State versus Ole Miss basketball game in Oxford is going to tip off at 7:30, and we are going to be joined by Brad Logan and by Steve Robertson to break down that basketball game. Plus, we will also look ahead to the matchup tomorrow between Alabama and Georgia with Chris Lee. That's all ahead on this edition of the Stingray Show. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get things rocking and rolling.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee.
You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good, kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah, but then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9. With the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their number one priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. And ladies and gentlemen, with all of that, we want to welcome you inside another edition of the Stingray Show. Hope all is well. And Heath, Saturday was a phenomenal day in college basketball because there were a ton of upsets.
Man, that Georgia-Florida game still has me just wow.
Yes.
And then, Mississippi State had a big win over Auburn. I don't know what's going on with Auburn, but they'll figure it out. I mean, Stephen, the conference this year is clearly better. I cannot wait till we talk to Chris Lee about that. I want to get his opinion, what he thinks if the conference is up a little, not up at all, up a lot, where he thinks the conference is.
Iowa State beat number 7 Kansas on Saturday. You also had number 8 Auburn go down, just like you mentioned. TCU in triple overtime knocked off number 15 Baylor. You had Wyoming upset Colorado State, and Heath, you had Richmond defeat the Dayton Flyers.
That's fun, man. The Spiders. Stephen, I think that's our first Spider reference, the Richmond Spiders on this show. Yeah, I don't think we've talked about Richmond ever.
Yes. And Heath, let me also say this. Now, this is going to be an unpopular opinion here, but I will have to tell you the team that is really close to you up there, the Memphis Tigers, went down on Sunday to UAB as UAB knocked them off up there at the Bartow Arena 97-88. So that is a huge win for Andy Kennedy up there at UAB.
Yeah, the Tigers and UAB, they've always had history. I mean, dating back to Gene Bartow back in the 70s. You know, they've always had some history. Gene Bartow took Memphis to the Final Four, then he left and went to UAB. And, you know, there was that excellent, crazy madness, chaotic scene.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was the 07. I think that was the 08 Valentine's Day game. Memphis, who was number one in the nation, had been undefeated all year. And it looks like they were going to lose to UAB, pulled a rabbit out of their hat, put that game in overtime, and stole that game in overtime. And there's great video footage of it. But look up that game, the 08 Valentine's game between Memphis and UAB. UAB students are double barrel saluting, Stone Cold style, yelling at Memphis players. To see all the anger of the student section projected on the Memphis players, it is a picture that says a trillion words. It is absolutely hilarious to look at that picture because, you know, it's a bunch of, you know, white frat boys yelling at, you know, trying to be big and bad and talk tough to, you know, college athletes. And it just looks ridiculous and silly, but it's actually funny. It's a great picture.
So Heath, back on Sunday when we did not have a show on January the 28th, it was three things of National Day of today. It was National Bubble Wrap Day on Sunday. It was also National Puzzle Day. And lastly, what we're going to do our Fave 5 on, it was National Corn Chip Day. So I thought a good Fave 5 for us to do would be our Fave 5 chips because of Sunday being National Corn Chip Day.
And before we jump into that, what do you use corn chips for? I usually use them for dipping mostly.
I do too.
Yeah. I love corn chips. I love Fritos. You know, put them in chili, obviously. You know, always put them in chili. You know, any kind of corn dip, I'll use that. Sometimes guacamole. Yeah, I'll use the Fritos for that. But what do you use it for, Steven?
Pimento cheese.
There you go. There you go.
I love pimento cheese, dude.
Yeah, do you put it in your chili? Do you put Fritos in your chili?
No.
Oh, dude, you're missing out.
Dude, I'm not a chili guy. I'm not a chili
person.
Nope.
Oh, come on, man. You would eat the right chili.
So, do you want to do the Fave 5? You want me to?
Go for it. Start us off.
Okay. At number 5, since it is National Corn Chip Day, I'm going with number 5, the corn chip. At number 4, I'm going the Ruffles, and I'm actually going sour cream and onion Ruffles. At number 3, I'm going with the Tostitos Scoops. At number 2, I'm going any and all Sun Chips. Does not matter the flavor. I love Sun Chips. And number 1, Heath, they could or could not be a chip, the Cheetos.
All right, Steven, I'm going to hit you with mine. I'm going to drop a little knowledge on you. All right, number 5, it just goes with everything. You can put it in any lunch. It may not be your favorite. I don't think it's anyone's favorite, but no one dislikes Nacho Doritos.
Yeah.
You know, peanut butter and jelly, great. Bologna sandwich, great. You know, you could have a turkey sandwich, great. It goes with every sandwich.
Yes.
And if you get the big bag, you will eat more than you want every time. If you put your hand in the big bag, you will tear that thing up. So always best to do the snack bags. Number 4, I'm a Cheeto guy. I love Cheetos. Love Cheetos. Always have, always will. I'm a big fan of Cheetos. Hey, here's your Uber fact. You know the dust that gets on your fingers, the cheese dust?
Yeah.
Do you know they can make them without that getting on? They wanted you to have that experience of getting Cheetos on your fingers. They can make it and it tastes the exact same, but they want you to have the experience of getting the Cheeto dust on you. So I always was blown away by that. Number 3, my wife can't stand these. I love them. Every time I go to Subway, I get them. It's the Garden Salsa Sun Chips. I love those things, man. Number 2, I know it's just boring, but man, they're so good. Plain Lays, man. I like the baked Lays. I like them. They're not my top 5, but I'll eat them all day long. But the Plain Lays, oh my gosh. And number 1, Steven, it's the greatest chip ever. I'm surprised you didn't say this. Pringles, man. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Yeah.
Pringles, that's the best chip ever.
So, Heath, on that note, we promise we are going to stop talking about food, and when we come back, we are going to focus on that big matchup this evening between Mississippi State and Ole Miss, as we're going to be joined by Brad Logan from the Ole Miss side of things. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. Be back in a flash with college basketball talk. Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. Do you guys like to fish? I know I do, and if you have a pond or lake in your backyard that needs stocking of fish, you need to contact biologist Jeff Bagwell with Honey Hole Fisheries. He can help you stock your lake with bluegill, largemouth bass, and hybrid striped bass. You can get in touch with Jeff Bagwell and Honey Hole Fisheries at 205-799-0192. Once again, that is Honey Hole Fisheries, 205-799-0192. Contact Mr. Jeff Bagwell today and let him help you build the lake of your dreams. Do you guys dream about owning a home or a condominium down on the beautiful beaches of Alabama, say Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, or maybe even Fairhope? Then let me tell you about First Class Real Estate South Home Group's owner, Celeste Hagler. She has brokers down there in the beautiful beaches of Alabama to help you purchase the home of your dreams and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste.
Are in the running to win this Friday. $1,000. Just download the BetU app right now in the App Store and sign up for an account for your shot at winning.
Tide 100.9 Traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Got a disabled vehicle on Lurleen Wallace Boulevard at McFarland Boulevard. And also watch for an accident, Highway 69 at Union Chapel Road. Also, watch for some slowing east on I-20, heading from I-359 to...
Super sale is underway right now with instant savings from $2,000 to $10,000 on most in-stock units. No reasonable offer refused. Shop Townsend Nissan today.
What if you could win $1,000?
Yeah! It's always about the money.
And it only took you a minute to do it. It's happening on Fridays with the only legal betting app in Alabama.
Yeah!
BetU. To have a shot at the money, go to the iPhone App Store and download the BetU app. That's bet and the letter U. Open your account, and you're officially in the running to win $1,000 this Friday.
Let's win.
Make sure you download the BetU app in the App Store and open your account to be in to win it this Friday.
Thanks so much, guys.
Winners will be contacted on Friday from our official betting app, BetU, and Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC. You're listening to the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9.
Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. Hope all is well with you guys. And you know, Heath, over there in the state of Mississippi, you've got to pick one side or the other. It's either Mississippi State or Ole Miss. But Heath, we're an SEC show, and with the big basketball game this evening, we are going to talk about both teams, and we are going to start with the Ole Miss Rebels.
You know, the Rebels this year have overperformed, Stephen.
Yes.
I don't think You can doubt that. You can't discuss it. You can't debate it. They have overperformed over everybody's expectations, every single person. So dynamic season. We're about to hit the hard part of conference play. And then, of course, we'll head into March after that. So with that, Ole Miss have set themselves up better than anybody else, I think, in the conference as far as expectations go.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, to help us preview the Mississippi State versus Ole Miss basketball game this evening, from the Ole Miss perspective, we are about to get to the contributor of Inside the Rebels from 247 Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Mr. Brad Logan. Brad, how are you doing this evening?
Well, Stephen, it's great to be with you. Heath, you as well. I'd like to commend both of you. Y'all had some great interviews. It's now, sadly, we're over football season, but, basketball is here. And Heath, just as you pointed out, the bulk of the SEC season is upon us. Now, this SEC season has been fun for me because it's been a ton of great games. It's just so hard to win on the road. And we saw in your state just the other night, Alabama beats Auburn. And then Auburn turns around, comes to Starkville, and Mississippi State beats Auburn. Yep. It's just so hard to win on the road. And I know Mississippi State's a team we'll talk about, but this Ole Miss team has fared, had a tough time on the road as well. 17-3, 4-3 in the conference. 3 of those losses actually come on the road, but they did win a big one against Texas A&M just the other night. But I'm telling you, it is a really big one inside the Sandy and John Black Pavilion coming up tonight. It's Mississippi State and Ole Miss. And Stephen and Heath, you guys know the Egg Bowl is always fun. It's interesting now that it matters on the hardwood. For so many years, it hasn't mattered to either one team or the other. This year, it matters to both teams.
Brad, before we start diving into this game, where do you think Ole Miss has set their expectations now? Since the great start of the season, I think we all got to wipe all the expectations off the dry erase board and write some new ones up on there. What are the expectations now for Ole Miss for the remainder of this season?
I think, Heath, coming into the year with the dismissal of Kermit Davis, I think Ole Miss fans were just looking for a competitive product. And now all of a sudden at a record of 17-3 with non-conference wins over Memphis, NC State, Central Florida. Those are really nice non-conference wins. And now all of a sudden you start talking about what they've been able to do in conference at 4-3, kind of the season before them. You look and I think before the season, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're thinking maybe the NIT. They busted how many wins they won last year. They accomplished that in the non-conference. So Chris Beard came in, and all of a sudden now Ole Miss is in a position midway through, at least the earlier part of the conference season, midway through their regular season, and now they're looking at 4-3. So the question is how do they get there, and what do they have at their backing? Because now you look at a team that's number 57 in the net, 48 in the Evan Meyer, but the Q1 is 2-2. The Q2 is 2-1. The good thing for the Rebels, you look at the Q3 and Q4, 6-0 and 7-0. They have no landmines on their schedule, which means that they've done what they've needed to do against the teams that aren't very good. They split with the quad 1 teams at 2-2, and then they've done a great job in the quad 2 at 2-1. So they're in a great position right now. So to answer your question, Heath, it's all about seeding, not only in the SEC tournament, it's about seeding in the NCAA tournament, because I think right now they're in the tournament. States in the tournament right now. They've got a net of 38 with their Q1 at 3-4. So I think what Chris Jans has done in Starkville is fantastic. I think 2 of the brightest and the best coaches in the conference right now. And I understand what John Calipari's done at Kentucky and Rick Barnes at Tennessee, and I get all that, and Bruce Pearl at Auburn. But give me Chris Jans at Mississippi State and give me Chris Beard at Ole Miss, 2 of the best coaches in the conference right now.
So, Brad, when you look at this matchup that tips off right after the Stingray Show here this evening, how do you see it playing out there in Oxford?
What is Ole Miss going to do to stop Tolu Smith? Mm-hmm. He is such a dominant force down low. And that's one thing that to Ole Miss's credit, they did a much better job rebound against Texas A&M. Texas A&M, one of the best rebounding teams, not only the SEC but the conference. How's Ole Miss going to stop Tolu Smith? And, you've got Matthews that's done a great job at forward for Mississippi State. But I think Hubbard, the young freshman out of the Jackson metro area, has shot the ball incredibly well for Chris Jans, and they play such good defense. So to answer your question, I think they're going to have to stop Tolu Smith, because I think one thing that Ole Miss has not had is good post play. Muse Sisse will have to play the game of his life to stop Smith. I think they're going to do their best to go down low to get as many easy buckets as they can. I think if Ole Miss can continue to shoot the ball well with Matthew Morrell, who's leading the team at right at 16 points a game, and then Juju Murray, who's running the point, is averaging right at, I think, 15 or so points a game. They've got 4 guys that are averaging over double digits. And I think Jamin Brakefield, the transfer out of Duke, has played well. And Alan Flanagan has been a lot of the go-to offense for Ole Miss down the stretch. So those 4 players have done very, very well. The problem with Ole Miss has been rebounding. But like I said, they did pretty well against Texas A&M. They rebounded well there. But Cam Matthews has played so well for Mississippi State, not to mention what are they going to do with Tolu Smith. But Hubbard's the player that I'm looking forward to watching for Mississippi State. If Ole Miss can really get up on him, I'll be interested to see what defense Chris Beard plays against Mississippi State. If they're hitting that outside shot and they're getting that production down low with Tolu Smith, they're going to be a problem for Ole Miss on later on tonight.
So, Brad, I do want to ask you in parting, before we get out of here, Mike Bianco and Ole Miss baseball. We are now 17 days away from first pitch of the baseball season. Obviously, he is on the hot seat coming into the season. What does he ultimately have to do in Oxford to keep his job into next year?
Well, Stephen, I want to throw a little bit of ice on that hot seat. I don't know that Mike's coming in with a...
Good for you, Brad.
I don't know that he's coming in with a very hot seat. I think Ole Miss fans are anxious about the season because of last year's really, really terrible year. And I think Mike Bianco and Mike Clement will tell you that Ole Miss just had a very poor year. They recruited really well in the transfer portal. They've got some players coming in. But, a couple of years removed from that national championship, that's going to leave Mike Bianco an opportunity to stay for a couple of years. I had a chance to visit with some of the players and some of the media personnel, and we talked specifically about the roster and that sort of thing. I think the schedule steps up nicely. They open up in Hawaii, so that's a nice way to get the season.
That's always nice.
Yeah, that's always nice to get the season kicked off
or end it in Hawaii. We all want to end in Omaha, but anytime you go to Hawaii, go to the island. Yeah.
I think every year you look at Mississippi State, what they did after winning the national championship, they struggled. Ole Miss absolutely struggled last year, but to answer your question, they really like their roster. They love their new pitching staff. And, ready to get things cranked up. That means that we're done with the ice. We're done with the snow, knock on wood. And I'm like you guys. I love baseball, specifically college baseball. And it's always been really good in the state of Mississippi with Southern Miss. I'm excited to see what Coach Christian Ostrander could do down in Hattiesburg, not to mention what Mississippi State's got kicking. And then, of course, Ole Miss under Mike Bianco. So love college baseball, and it's always a lot of fun to follow.
Brad, before we head out, who's the offensive person we got to watch for in the game coming up?
Yeah, Juju Murray. He's the one that shot one from downtown College Station that put Ole Miss ahead by 4 points late in the game against Texas A&M. He's been playing really well. Matthew Morrell is he's definitely a three-point shooter. But what Mississippi State's got to do is stop the mid-range game of Jamin Brakefield. Brakefield's really good around the free throw line. The same thing can be said about Alan Flanagan, who is a coach's son, someone that transferred in from Auburn, also scoring in double digits. But if you pin me down and said what Mississippi State's got to do, they got to stop that three-point shot by Juju Murray, who's so good off the dribble and creates a great shot for Ole Miss and Chris Beard.
All right.
So, Brad, look, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us, and we will catch up later on, especially in the college baseball season.
Thanks, Heath, and thanks, Stephen, and congratulations on all of your success.
Thank
you, Brad. Have a great one.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up the Ole Miss side of things. When we come back, we are going to be joined by Steve Robertson to talk about the Mississippi State side of this matchup this evening. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back. How would you guys like to try a caramel cookie butter hot chocolate? Hey, you guys ordered the Blitzen so much at Strange Brew Coffee House over the holidays until Strange Brew made the Blitzen a permanent addition to Strange Brew Originals. Hey, it's cold outside, it's wintertime, you probably need a pick-me-up or maybe even something to warm you up. Go by Strange Brew Coffee House on the Strip at the University of Alabama, 1101 University Boulevard, and get you something that will warm your heart and your soul right here on the Strip at the University of Alabama. Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. And their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the four-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods. Your life can change on a dime, and if you are relocating for your job up to the Rocket City of Huntsville, the fastest growing city in the state of Alabama, you need to contact Celeste Hagler of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She has brokers all over North Alabama to help you get settled with buying a new home in North Alabama. You can contact her at 205-861-5698. Once again, that is Celeste Hagler.
Outdoors, Elite Recruiting, Tuscaloosa Tractor, and Houghton's Deer Processing. Win your shot at thousands of dollars in cash and prizes with the Big Old Buck Hunting Contest.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
Citizens of West Alabama, have you heard the news? The Bank of Moundville, which was established way back in 1907, offers personal loans of all sizes, unsecured and secured, with competitive interest rates. You can contact them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is the Bank of Moundville, 205-371-2227, or go by and see them in downtown Moundville. They are an equal housing lender and a member of the FDIC. Welcome back inside the Stingray Show, and now we are going to switch to the Mississippi State side of this huge basketball game this evening up in Oxford. And in order to do that, we are going to be joined by the host of the Boneyard podcast over there in Starkville, Mississippi, as well as a best-selling author and, of course, a reporter for Gene's Page and 247 Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome back to the Stingray Show, Mr. Steve Robertson. Steve, how are things going over there in Starkville?
Things are great, man. I mean, it's always, it's a laugh a minute over here. I mean, it's the greatest place in the world, and so I do want to correct one. There's a couple things I want to correct if Heath will allow me here.
Absolutely.
I'm actually the owner of Gene's Page.
Okay.
And in addition to that, too, we are the Mississippi State affiliate for 247 Sports. And one of the things I want to say about that, too, is, for years and years and years when I was with Scout, we competed against these guys. And now that I'm here, I don't think I'm ever going to leave. We absolutely love it here, 247 Sports. And, of course, we're, affiliated with CBS Interactive. And it's one of those things, you think you know how the other side operates until you get over here. And it's just, I have been so pleased with all of this. And we had a record year last year at genespage.com. And so even though we've been around forever and a day, we're still growing and still finding ways to bring the latest information to Mississippi State fans in the known galaxy.
So, Steve, We got a big game coming up this week, Ole Miss and State. What do you know about Ole Miss? Because me and Stephen were talking about earlier, been shocked with Ole Miss this year. I think everybody in the conference has been shocked with Ole Miss. No one saw this coming. Ole Miss and South Carolina have shocked us all. With that being said, what do you know about Ole Miss coming into this basketball game?
Well, they're really, really good at home, right? I mean, and listen, every year in the SEC, it's so tough to put on a dark jersey and go on the road, win a ball game, you know. And Ole Miss and Chris Beard's done a great job protecting the home court. And that's, you know, these days, I mean, of course, the way the net works, I mean, you know, you get a road win somewhere, that's big. And a really loud win for Ole Miss this past weekend over Texas A&M. And a lot of people talked about, you know, how good is this Ole Miss team really? This non-conference schedule wasn't very challenging. And, of course, they're kind of paying for that in the net. But, you know, the real games are here, and they're playing well with rare exception. And Mississippi State's going to certainly have their hands full tonight against the Ole Miss Rebels in Oxford at the Pavilion.
So can you go on ahead and kind of talk, Steve, about the season so far leading up to this basketball game for Mississippi State, please?
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, I mean, State got off to such a great start. Then you had a week there where they lost both games, including a loss to Southern University, not Southern Mississippi.
Right.
Southern University. And when all that happened, you're like, man, that's going to be an anchor to the net the rest of this year, you know, and they negate some of that by taking care of, you know, Tennessee, I think, who's 3 in the net the last time that I checked. Then you take care of Auburn. So a pair of top 10 wins for Chris Jansen's club, but it's kind of been kind of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde with his team. You know, it's like, you know, some games that go out there, like they go to Atlanta and they absolutely crushed Tulane, who was playing extremely well. And Tulane offensively was just elite at that point. And State absolutely went over there and beat them to death. Right. And so you think, hey, this team is capable of playing with, you know, some high octane offenses. Well, then, you know, then you beat Tennessee and then you get an Alabama team that's probably better than their record indicated at the time. People forget Alabama was 6-5, you know, and then all of a sudden Nate Oates does what Nate Oates does, right? He gets those guys turned around. They get the perimeter game going. The guards are great. Sears is phenomenal. And they come in and start going, win a game that Mississippi State really had to have, you know. And so then you have this, you know, on again, off again love affair, right? I mean, it's like the bandwagon people they're getting dizzy, right? And so, but to our fans' credit, man, it's been 3 straight sellout weekends at Humphrey Coliseum. And so nobody can say anything about fan apathy or anything like that. And then, of course, the fans, you know, rewarded with that big win over Auburn. I didn't think it was a good matchup for State, honestly. I just did not think State was going to be able to match up athletically with Auburn.
Yes.
But not only did they do that, I mean, they kind of made Auburn play Mississippi State's game. You know, I thought State really gave Auburn some trouble in half court, right? Auburn could not get into their sets. I mean, a lot of times you get to the top of the key, there's like 10 seconds left on the shot clock. And so State made them grind it out and Auburn couldn't do it. And State did a good job getting back in transition defense and making it a half court game. And when that happens with Chris Jans, when he forces you to play a half court game, the defensive effort's going to be there to make it a tough night. And that's kind of what's happened. And that's what State's going to have to do against Ole Miss is you got to get out and defend the perimeter game. I mean, you know, they like to chunk it. Now, State gives up a ton of 3-point attempts.
Yes.
But the made 3-point percentage is really not that strong, you know. And I think a lot of that is just because State contests shots so well. They will get out there and just do just enough to alter the shot. It's a low percentage shot anyway. And you get a hand in the face. And so State's going to have to make Ole Miss play their game. They're going to keep the crowd out of it. I know that it's a big push for Mississippi State fans to buy tickets and go over there. So, I mean, State will have some fan support there. But if this is going to be a Bulldog team that we expect to finish, you know, in the top third of this league, it's a game you got to win.
So, Steve, I asked Brad Logan, our guest, earlier this question. I will end with you on the same question. We are about 17 days away from the first pitch of college baseball. How much of a hot seat is Chris Lemonis on over there? And in your opinion, what does he have to do in order to keep his job in Starkville?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely on the hot seat. I mean, you know, you win an national championship, it earns you a little bit of grace, but that's all been washed away. I mean, with 2 seasons where you don't even make the postseason, and everybody knows what's at stake. I mean, the good thing is State should have a pretty good team this year, and I think the addition of Justin Parker might be one of the best coaching moves that Chris Simonis ever makes. I mean, the culture has changed. That's not to be disrespectful of Scott Foxhall. It's just a different way of doing things. But the kids have really responded to him. And you got a bunch of pitchers right now that you're having to figure out roles and identify what they're going to do to help you. But I see this as a road NCAA tournament team when it's all said and done. I mean, of course, if you have somebody step up and have a career year, maybe you're in the discussion to host. But I don't think this is a team that misses out on the postseason. I think they'll go to Hoover. I think they'll be in a regional somewhere. I do think it'll be a road regional. This is an offense that could be one of the best in the country. And that's not just with the DJ and Hunter Hines. I mean, there's some depth in this order. Logan Kohler's a guy that we think is a double-digit home run guy, transfer in from Memphis. Amani Larry is a guy that flirted with it last year. Ross Highfield got to 9 last year. So there's some power in this lineup, but also there's some speed. They're going to be able to run the bases a little bit. They were a lot better defensively in the fall than they were last year. They booted it around a little bit the first scrimmage this, preseason, but they'll get that figured out. I mean, people forget. I mean, you're playing yourself in a scrimmage game, right? I mean, it's not like you've got your first team defense out there against your second team defense. You're mixing and matching, and so that's people just need to kind of take a breath there. But people are just so eager to win again. It's like you're just like you don't want to believe, and belief is the greatest thing, right? I mean, everybody believes. Time of year they're going to be great, but I think there'll probably be a coaching change in Mississippi this year, but I'm not so sure it's going to be in Starkville.
Okay. Steve, I got to ask you before we head out. We're staying with baseball. I cannot remember the number, and you might know it off the top of your head, but team ERA in SEC games last year, it was either double digits or flirting with double digits. If Mississippi State could just drop that like 1.5 runs a game, I think they easily win 38 games this year.
Yeah, and I think, part of that, too, you had some injuries and you didn't have a lot of depth. And you had to throw those young guys out. Like Evan Sierra was the guy you had to kind of throw to the Wolves early. Logan Forsythe the same way. Both of those guys had really good summers, really good off season. So we don't expect them to be frontline starters. You think the transfer portal guys like Carson Ligon and Cal Steven will come in and kind of shore that up. But, State's going to have the ability to let guys pitch where they should be, where last year they had to pitch them where they had to. And so much different dynamic this year. But, if you just shave, I think we did the numbers last year. Like if you shave 1 earned run off, they make Hoover. If you shave off 1.5, they're in a regional somewhere. You got to play defense. You got those strikes. And State struggled to do both last year.
Wow. So, Steve, look, man, thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy the game this evening, and we will catch up later on during the college baseball season.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Steve.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up the insight on Mississippi State and Ole Miss. When we come back in our final segment, we are going to be joined by Chris Lee of Southeastern 14 to get his take on the entire league's performance this past weekend in college basketball. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. We will be right back.
What if you could win $1,000? Yeah!
It's always about the money.
And it only took you a minute to do it. It's happening on Fridays with the only legal betting app in Alabama. Yeah! Bet You. To have a shot at the money, go to the iPhone App Store and download the Bet You app. That's Bet and the letter U. Open your account, and you're officially in the running to win $1,000 this Friday.
Let's win.
Make sure you download the Bet You app in the App Store and open your account to be in to win it this Friday.
Thanks so much, guys.
Winners will be contacted on Friday from our official betting app, Bet You, and Tide 100.9 and 12:30 a.m. WTBC.
Since 1999, residents of Tuscaloosa has depended on this butcher shop and grocery store. I'm talking about South's Finest Meats. With their specialty meats and fresh to frozen bulk vegetables, you can prepare delicious home-cooked meals all week long. At South's Finest Meats, customer service is their #1 priority, and when you shop with them, you can expect to be treated like an MVP. Go by and check out South's Finest Meats at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. South's Finest Meats, the official sponsor of the Stingray Show. Residents of Tuscaloosa, are you guys upsizing, downsizing, looking for college housing, or even relocating for your job right here to Tuscaloosa. If that's the case, then you need to contact Celeste Hagler, owner and operator of First Class Real Estate South Home Group. She can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Reach out to Celeste again at 205-861-5698 and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. Are you guys in the mood for community goods and great barbecue? That's what you'll find at the Coker Market, located in Coker, Alabama at the four-way intersection off of County Road 140. Their hours of operation are Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. and their menu items include the Midnight, which is smoked ham, smoked pork, Swiss cheese, Creole mustard, mayonnaise, and a pickle, grilled on French bread. That sandwich is absolutely amazing. Make sure you go and check out the Coker Market right there at the four-way intersection in Coker for amazing food and community goods.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. If you're traveling northbound on Highway 69 from 15th Street to Mitlary Road, it's an 8-minute delay. Some slowing east on Highway 82 from Airport Road to Jack Warner Parkway. It's a 2-minute delay. We have long-term road construction on Oscar Baxter.
Your best bet for big wins is just minutes away at Birmingham Racecourse Casino, where you can be a winner too. Off I-459, exit 31 Derby Parkway.
Want to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Download the Tide 100.9 app today.
Welcome back inside of our final segment right here on the Stingray Show. And now we are going to continue our talks about the entire SEC from this past weekend on Saturday. And in order to do that, we are about to bring on our weekly correspondent, Chris Lee from Southeastern 14. Chris, how are things going with you this evening? And Chris, I've got to say, Saturday was quite an entertaining day in college basketball, not only in the SEC, my friend.
Yeah, it was, but it was really entertaining for part of the SEC. We had the Georgia-Florida game, which was tremendous. We had, Auburn with the nail biter, lost on the road to Mississippi State, which now has 2 huge wins. I mean, the thing about this league, guys, night in and night out, you really can't take anybody for granted. Even the teams at or near the bottom of this league are pretty competitive, and I think it makes for good basketball almost every night.
So, Chris, let's go on ahead and start with that game that you just mentioned. Florida led that game in the second half by 21 points, let Georgia claw all the way back, take it into overtime, and then Florida ultimately got the win. Your thoughts on that matchup Saturday?
Yeah, Georgia and LSU are the 2 kind of scrappy teams in this league. They're going to be underdogs in most games, but you can never count them out. Yeah. Georgia trailed big in that game, came back, went ahead. Blue Cane had some great shooting at the last. And R.J. Melendez, who's a transfer from Illinois, gave them 35. But Florida's really got a lot of scoring balance. I love their point guard, Zion Pullen. Micah Hedlogton was really good, 23 and 17. Florida had just enough at home. The Gators have got to start racking up some big wins, but the computers have that as a tournament caliber team. And when I watch those guys play, the eyes tell me that it is too. Now, they got to get Riley Kugel going. I mean, I say they've got to. They played well without him, but he was supposed to be their best player coming into the season. He's really been off this year for reasons I don't know why, but boy, if they get him going with the other guys they've got, this is a really, really good basketball team. And so is Georgia. And year 2 under Mike White, that's a team with a couple of good wins could really edge itself to the way of the bubble conversation for the NCAA tournament.
Chris, looking at this season as a whole in the SEC, this is clearly an up year compared to last year. Is that a very fair statement?
Yeah, it is. Because again, I think that there's really, you've got 11 teams that are quality or better. And then you've got Arkansas, Missouri, and Vandy at the bottom. Arkansas, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, no one knows what's going on
this weekend. Yeah, I mean, it's a disaster. Missouri, I think, had a chance to be competitive, but lost maybe the two key guys that counted on the most, or at least two of the three, I would say. And then Vandy is a different story. But
yeah, we're not going to pick on Vandy.
Yeah, that's a long, unpleasant conversation. But the rest of the league is really, really good. I think you probably got 10 teams. I don't know that LSU is going to contend for an NCAA tournament bid, but LSU could be in the NIT. You've got 10 teams that I think as of today, and we're doing this into January, got a shot to make it.
So, Chris, I do want to ask you, going back to Saturday, Ole Miss finally gets a quad one win on the road at Texas A&M. Your thoughts on how big of a win that was for the Ole Miss Rebels on Saturday evening?
Well, it was a big win. I'm still not sure Ole Miss would be in the tournament if you did it today, but 17-3 is pretty impressive. And you got a backcourt tandem. Really, it's more than a tandem. It's a threesome of Morrell, Murray, and Flanagan. Those guys were all really good. Murray hit a three-pointer from maybe 28, 29 feet for the game's deciding points. Flanagan came off a disappointing game against Auburn, and that was sort of understandable. That was a homecoming for him and a lot of pressure there. And Morrell's just been so consistent. Not a huge night statistically for him, but good enough. And Ole Miss really needed a win like that to stay on the right side of the bubble. I don't know what to make of A&M. I think A&M's got more quad one wins than any team in the SEC, but I watched this team play basketball. It does not look like a tournament team to me right now. This team cannot shoot. It shot 39.7% from the field against Ole Miss. That seems like a hot night for that team anymore. 12 of 22 from the line. I just think in this day and age of college basketball, Wade Taylor's been phenomenal. He had 30 points the other night, but everybody knows that's the guy that's going to get the shot. And you could put bigger guys on him and multiple guys on him. And Tyrese Radford's really had an off year beside him. I'm surprised. I think other than Arkansas, and again, A&M is a team that's in the conversation and can get better. But right now, I think after Arkansas, this might be the most disappointing team in the league.
So, Chris, I do want to ask you about two games. One of them is this evening, Mississippi State, Ole Miss in Oxford. We've talked about it earlier from Ole Miss's perspective and Mississippi State. Chris, how do you see that game playing out?
The computers have it as a toss-up, and I think Mississippi State's the better team. Again, State's got two big wins over Tennessee and Auburn. Josh Hubbard has really been the piece that team needed. It needed an outside shooter. They've got some really tough defenders underneath in Tolo Smith and Cam Matthews. Look, it is much like the team that State had a year ago, even if all the parts aren't performing up to what they did. And it's going to be a team playing with confidence. Ole Miss also coming off a huge road win, as we just talked about. Got a lot to play for. This team plays a lot better at home. I think that, again, the guard tandem that I referred to earlier, I like their backcourt better than I like State's. But State's more experienced and has probably won more of these bigger types of games. And so I think that's why it's a toss-up. Ole Miss is really tough to beat in Oxford. I would probably pick Ole Miss, but no outcome would surprise me here.
Yes. So, Chris, finally, the reason that the Stingray Show will not be on tomorrow evening on Tide is because Alabama travels over to Athens in a matchup of two teams that are 14-6 on the year. Alabama at Georgia tomorrow evening. Chris, how do you see that game playing out?
I think that's a battle, guys. As I said, Georgia just fights you. There's finally some excitement in that building for the first time in forever. They've been pretty good at home. Lost that game to Tennessee. That's the only loss. And Georgia had that until the final 3 or 4 minutes. And if you can take Tennessee to the wire anywhere, you're probably going to be a pretty good team. Look, I think Alabama still wins this game because Alabama's offense, my goodness, is this starting to click on all cylinders? I think that's now 6 100-point games, another one with 98, another one with 99, coming off 109 against LSU, which is not a great defensive team, but it'll play hard. And it's good enough not to give up 109 points. Look, Alabama gets scoring from so many points on the floor, from Estrada, Sears, Wrightsell, Nelson. Ryland Griffin has carried them lately, and some quality guys off the bench down low. I just think they're so tough to guard between the weapons and the speed at which they move the ball. And I just think talent probably wins out in this one. But look, if Georgia upset Alabama at home, it wouldn't shock me either, because Mike White's club has played better than I think most have thought night in and night out.
So, Chris, enjoy the midweek of college SEC basketball. Have a wonderful rest of your week, my friend, and we will catch up later on next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chris.
So, Heath, in the matchup between Mississippi State and Ole Miss this evening, who you taking?
You know, State didn't look good after their big win against Tennessee. They kind of, didn't look impressive. I think that win goes against them again. Had the big win against Auburn. I think they come out flat again.
So, Heath, that is going to wrap up another edition of the Stingray Show. We hope that you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it right here on Tide 100.9. And just like I mentioned right there in the interview, Alabama at Georgia tomorrow evening will be on Tide 100, and that will knock out the Stingray Show for tomorrow. So we will be back on Thursday evening with a huge interview.
Yep. Stephen, it's going to be a fun interview. I'll just say this. Everybody in the SEC knows this person. Everybody in the SEC respects this person.
Yes.
And, it's going to be a very fun interview.
So, Heath, with that being said, we are going to sign off here on the Stingray Show. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday evening. Mississippi State and Ole Miss is next on the SEC Network. We will see you guys.